The Conquest of Frustration by Maxwell Maltz, the action program by the renowned author of Psychocybernetics that points you away from disappointment and despair toward a happy, zestful life. I accept myself today as I am. I do not reject myself. Now I am ready to begin. What is your self-image? Are you a person of confidence or a person of frustration? These are among the questions asked by the authors, a noted psychologist and an eminent clergyman, as they explain how you too can overcome the most pressing personal problem of modern life, the conquest of frustration. The art of overcoming frustration. Pax vobiscum. Peace be with you. But how do you achieve this peace? This peace of mind, which takes you away from your negative feelings, which helps you conquer frustration? We will study this all-important question and we will analyze the forces you must harness. We will also study the components of frustration and discuss the art of overcoming these negative forces. Not too long ago, I gave a 3-day seminar in Salinas, California, and after that another seminar in San Luis Obispo, a lively little town. At this latter meeting, I was quite surprised to see the warden of the local men's colony, a penitentiary accommodating over 2,000 people. He was there with his educational staff. We became friends and I visited the colony, a beautiful place. The men serving time there were learning various trades. We talked about setting up a self-fulfillment program in psychocybernetics, the conquest of frustration. I thought it was a wonderful idea and we arranged to start it soon. 2 days later, I left California and returned home to New York. When I got to my office home, there was a large envelope addressed to me from the Department of Justice, Bureau of Prisons. I thought, now what have I done wrong? I opened the envelope. Inside were 2 letters and a pamphlet. One letter was from the director of education of one of the largest federal penitentiaries in our country, requesting that I come to the graduating exercises of a course in psychocybernetics they had just completed in the penitentiary. I was amazed, for I didn't even know it existed. There was also a letter from the main teacher, a man who was serving over 15 years, who has been a marvelous teacher in psychocybernetics over a period of 3 years, and I was overwhelmed. He hoped and prayed that I would appear. I immediately wired them that I would be there, and so I participated in the graduation exercises of men who were serving sentences for a long period of time. And this reminded me of another story. You can find it in greater detail in my book Creative Living for Today. It was about a woman named Anna, whose 3-month-old infant was torn from her and trampled to death during the Nazi occupation of Poland in 1942. She was thrown into a concentration camp. Her husband in another, she told him that. Heartbroken, She refused to let her spirit be crushed. She refused to admit defeat when she worked in a slave labor factory. Nothing could destroy her self-respect. The German guards beat her and scarred her face, but she refused to yield to frustration and despair. Eventually she was freed when the Nazis were defeated. Her husband too was freed. They found each other again. Her son, born in America, is now studying to be a doctor. She came to see me at my office, hoping I could remove the scar from her face so that her son could see her as she really was. The operation was successful, but the beauty of her face could never match the beauty of her self-image, an image that refused to be buried under the heavy weight of terrifying persecution. These problems of overcoming frustrations are arresting since the frustrations involved imprisonment. I mention them because they are so illustrative of an imprisonment that is real and physical. But you're outside of prison, aren't you? Dr. Maltz wants to say that. Are you still alive? Do you have freedom? But you're outside of prison, aren't you? Or are you? Is your prison better or worse than an actual prison? Truly, this is debatable, for it is a torturous prison, an antisocial prison, the prison without the prison you create inside yourself, through frustration, hiding behind locked doors and walking away from the realities of life, making your image of yourself shrink to the size of a small potato. Who are you? Are you in prison, or can you be free from the dead weight of negative feelings? This is what the problem is all about, as I see it. Recently I spoke in Washington to an assemblage of insurance people, and I saw Washington burn. Pax vobiscum. Peace be with you. Where is this peace? With our country burning, which is the worst conflagration, the outside one or the fires within us, the hatred, the bigotry, the resentment within us. We hear talk of better policing, but there are not enough policemen to police this world. There are not enough UNs to police this world. This business of creative psychocybernetics is self-fulfillment, peace of mind, and it starts with knowing how to police yourself first. You can be a friend to others unless you are a friend to yourself. You can be a success with others unless you are a success with yourself. You can have the love of others unless you have the love of yourself as somebody. Somebody is capable of blunders, but someone capable of rising above them. The mistake maker, but thank God, the mistake breaker. Someone overcome by frustration, yet someone able to rise above, to conquer it. You wake up in the morning and your day's reality, but what are you preparing to do with this reality? Oh, how vital are these first few minutes of your day? You look in the mirror, what kind of day is it going to be? Betsy baby? What kind of day is it going to be? Charlie? Old boy? You have to make a decision. You see two people in the mirror. You see the person of frustration and you see the person of confidence. Who will win out inside of you? Who are you going to be those first few minutes of your day? If you permit some frustration of the past to insinuate itself into your day, you have lost. Your day will be fruitless, self-destructive. On the other hand, suppose you look in the mirror and say, Betsy baby, Charlie my boy, this is my day. Today I fulfill myself, and even if I fall flat on my face, I'm going to stand up and keep punching until I reach my goal. Well, you're reaching out toward utility, toward dynamic living, toward your goals. You're planning success, and even if you don't reach your goals that day, chances are you will reach them another time. The baby who reaches out with open arms to his mother feels a fate that she will answer his need for affection. You, at a later age, must be reawakened in yourself this same kind of deep faith. You, at a later age, must reawaken in yourself this same kind of deep faith. In the final analysis, the conquest of frustration depends on you and no one else. No one can make you unhappy without your consent. No one can make you lonely without your consent. No one can fill you with frustration without your consent. The displaced person. Are you a displaced person? Ask yourself, are you? Think about it. Just the other day I looked in the papers and saw some pictures of the harrowing situation in Vietnam. Mothers and children displaced, tragedy written on their faces. Displaced people, almost as bad as during the Nazi occupation. Are you, in spite of your sense of freedom, a displaced person? Ask yourself that. You are displaced if you live in your own prison. You are displaced if you are filled with frustration. Now, by frustration I don't mean the daily complaints we all have, the normal frustrations we experience during 24 hours of living. I'm talking about chronic frustration piling on your mental back, 50 pounds of extra mental and spiritual weight. The old hurt aches, the old tragedies, the old guilts, the old misfortunes, the old loneliness of our yesterday, which should remain a yesterday. The conquest of frustration, the quest for happiness, the business of creative living to achieve peace of mind starts with living now. You've got to live now. N-O-W. Forget yesterday, lost in the vacuum of time. Buried deep, deep in the tomb of time. The conquest of frustration starts now. You must realize this. Still, it isn't worth anything if you don't turn these thoughts into golden opportunities, if you don't transform them into creative performance. In creative performance, you've got to be your own plastic surgeon. You have to be your own creative sculptor. Take these thoughts and mold them and shape them into things of beauty. Use the principles of psychocybernetics, which means living in the present and steering your mind to productive, useful goals. Let us hear from some people who have used psychocybernetics as a springboard to better living. Here is one comment from a man serving a sentence in Leavenworth Penitentiary. To say that the use and practice of the principles of psychocybernetics, as laid out by Dr. Maxwell Maltz, have been beneficial to me would be a gross understatement. Learning to control my emotions and not feel anger at all, real or imagined, wrong, has been the principal achievement I have made by studying and using the principles of psychocybernetics. Here's another one. In preparing myself to re-enter society as a productive and useful member, I have in these past 4 years given considerable thought along the lines of re-establishing my values and attitudes. Although I have learned a beneficial and worthwhile trade to support my family, there was still something lacking. Not being able to put my fingers on it, I enlisted in various courses of self-help programs to try to fill that empty something within me. I enrolled in a psychocybernetics class. As the weeks of instruction and study passed, I was pleasantly surprised to find that I had developed an inner peace within myself, re-evaluating my self-image. Through conscious practice of psychocybernetics, exercises of a positive mental attitude has filled the void in my life. I am now prepared to return to society and my family thanks to psychocybernetics. Let me ask you a question. Are you prepared to return to society? Are you even part of society? If you are a displaced person through negative feelings, thoughts, resentment, frustration, you don't belong to society yet. You will build your concentration camp 100 feet tall unless you learn to tear the wall of Jericho down, Jericho down, so that you can see your image, a true image, an image in God's image. The whole business of living is to fulfill yourself, to enhance your sense of self-respect. When you do this, you express the godlike quality within you. Are you prepared to stop being a displaced person? Are you prepared to stand on your mental and spiritual feet, opening the doors of the jail into which you put yourself? Here's another comment. Since enrolling in the psychocybernetics workshops, I can honestly and truthfully say there has been a definite change in my mental outlook towards many things. Where I would look on the darker or negative side of things and find only darkness, now I am slowly but surely seeing the brighter side of my everyday life. Use of the principles of psychocybernetics has helped me in many ways to a better life and a brighter future. Could you write this now? Maybe not. Still, let's see how you feel after reading these chapters and then rereading them. Now let us consider 5 roadblocks that lead to frustration. First, you worry after you have made a decision. Worry at times has validity. If you have 5 ways of reaching your goal and you can't reach the goal, taking the 5 ways, you're anxious. Which road should you take? You must make up your mind, but once you have made your decision, reach out for the goal and fight for it. Then stop worrying about your decision. 2. You worry about today, yesterday, and tomorrow. How many of us would like to escape to that lovely island in the sun, forgetting everything, all our tensions, where we could sit under a coconut tree eating luscious coconuts? The opposite of this is constant worry about today, yesterday, or tomorrow, and it leads only to frustration. 3. You try to do too many things at one time. You must carefully select your goals and accept your limitations. Accept yourself as you are. Set goals you can achieve, goals you are equipped to achieve. Set reasonable time limits, and you can do many things at different times. Julius Caesar couldn't do 2 things at one time. He did two things at two different times. You can do one thing at a time, positive or negative. 4. You wrestle with problems all day. If something defies solution, you sleep with it, not on it. You forget that there are 3 8-hour periods to a day. 8 hours for work, 8 hours for rest, and 8 hours for sleep. Who asked you to bring the troubles of your office to your home? Who asked you to bring the troubles of your home to your office? You refuse to realize that those middle 8 hours are yours, and in these hours you're a king or a queen who can develop pursuits or hobbies to give you pleasure. 5. You refuse to relax. You toss and turn on your pillow trying to count sheep, jumping through a window. You stay up all night wondering if you gave yourself the right count. Stop counting, get your sleep, and attack your new day in the morning. These are your 5 roadblocks, emotional dead ends that will lead you only to despair. Now, here is the other side of the coin. 4 steps on the road to relaxation. First, you forgive others. Oh, how difficult that is. Forgiveness with no strings attached, a clean slate. No forgiveness on the installment plan. The kind that says I love you today, I hate you tomorrow. 2. You forgive yourself. This is a human achievement. Alexander Pope said to forgive is divine. We all want to be human, not divine of course, so let's just try to be human, realizing our capacity for error, but also our capacity for rising above it through forgiveness. Forgive others, forgive yourself. 3. You see yourself at your best as a person of confidence, not as a person of frustration. You must make the decision. No one can make it for you. 4. You keep up with yourself. If you try to carry someone else's image, you're beginning to practice frustration. You're beginning to walk into your own concentration camp. You're worse off than many inmates of your penitentiaries. 5 roadblocks to frustration. 4 principles of relaxation. Stop being a displaced person and start walking out of the jail you have created for yourself. The art of communication. Now, how do you do this? Through the art of communication. How do you communicate? Let me tell you a story. About a year ago, I went to Atlanta, Georgia, to address 800 people in the sales and executive marketing group, celebrating their 25th anniversary. In honor to the occasion for me, a Yankee from New York coming down to Atlanta, Georgia, there was a young boy named Ray, who was 14 years old. He had a horn, and he was going to blow his horn and play Yankee Doodle for me. Behind him was a boy, 2 years older, taller, with a drum. When Ray blew his horn, the other boy would beat the drum. Ray took the horn and put it to his lips. Nothing came out, not a sound. I looked at him, standing there so dejected. It didn't occur to me that the boy had come unprepared to play this song to 800 people. I was sure he had practiced for weeks, at least, but he couldn't blow his horn. He couldn't communicate. He stood there for a while, wondering what had happened. Then he took the mouthpiece off, put a new mouthpiece on, put the horn to his lips. Again nothing came out. My heart went out to this boy in this utter dejection. Defeated, he moved listlessly to a huge round table at the rear of the room where a huge piece of apple pie and cheese and a glass of milk had been set out for him, but he didn't see them. He sat, head bowed in shame. And so I got up and I said, "Ladies and gentlemen, the topic of my talk tonight is Ray, who couldn't blow his horn." And I told them about the Ray within every one of us who, because of some fear, panic, or frustration, cannot communicate, cannot blow his horn. And I also told them the story of another Ray, an 18-year-old second-year medical student who wanted to be a doctor and could not recite in class, could not communicate, could not blow his horn. I was this Ray. When the professor of pathology called on me to quiz me orally, I was in a panic even though I knew my subject. I could not communicate. I thought that the 80 fellow students who looked at me were angry at me, wanted me to fail, and so I did. I sat down defeated. Time after time, the same thing happened to me in these oral quizzes. But I had such a great desire to be a doctor that I refused to let this fear overcome me. I remember that when I took written examinations, that when I looked through a microscope at a specimen slide, I had to identify. When I didn't see the faces of the professor and the students, I was completely relaxed. I wrote down what I saw and got an A for my efforts. I suddenly resolved that the next time the professor gave me an oral quiz, I would make believe I was looking at a slide through a huge microscope, and I would pay no attention to my audience, and sure enough, the next time it happened, I was relaxed, I was confident, I answered properly without hesitation, I cancelled out my fears. I overcame that terrifying feeling of frustration and passed the course with honors. What am I trying to say? That, like Ray, I, at the age of 18, couldn't blow my horn from panic, from frustration. But I overcame my fears, and if I can do it, you can do it. It doesn't matter if you came from the other side of the tracks. So too did I. Communicate. How do you communicate? Once before a lecture, a man came over to me and said, "Dr. Maltz, you wrote a terrific book. The men of our insurance agency study a chapter a week and we get a great hang out of it. Thank you for writing this wonderful book, Psychoceramics." Well, I don't know what psychoceramics is, but I do know what psychocybernetics is. Psychocybernetics is the conquest of frustration. Psychocybernetics comes from a Greek word, kybernetes, or helmsman, referring to the man who steers a ship to port. And psychocybernetics means steering your mind to a productive, useful goal. I say that advisedly because far too often, when we are overcome with frustration, we steer our minds to unproductive, useless, destructive, annihilating goals. Psychocybernetics, steering your mind to a productive, useful goal. When you do that, you can be frustrated even if you don't reach your goal, for once you try to reach your goal, you're already there. Nothing will stand in your way once you try. Communication. Through communication, you will learn the art of overcoming frustration. But how do you achieve it? After a lecture to 1800 successful insurance men in Boston. One fellow from Texas asked if he could drive me to the airport to catch a plane to New York. He said, "Dr. Maltz, I would like you to do me a favor." I said, "What is it?" "I have a son." "Well, what about your son? How old is he?" "He's 17. I said, "What's your problem?" He said, "Doc, I can't communicate with my boy." I said, "What do you mean? You can't communicate with your boy?" "I just can't." "Whose fault is it?" "I don't know." "What do you mean, you don't know? You're the father." "Doc, I don't want to get into an argument with you. I just can't communicate with my boy, and I would like you to help me, can you?" I said, "I don't know if I can. I don't think you will listen to me." "Goodbye, Philip. I will see you some other time." He said, "Come on, try me out." I said, "I will tell you what you do. When you get home, you go over to your boy and you say, 'Son, forgive me. It might be that I may have made a mistake about you, but isn't it possible that you could have made a mistake about me?'" I looked at him. He had turned pale. I said, "You will never do it. Goodbye, Philip. I will see you some other time." 2 months elapsed. I was in my office, busy with non-time patients, my assistants, nurses. One nurse came over to me and said, "Long distance." I picked up the phone. I did it, I heard. "Who is this?" "You did what?" "Doctor, it works, it works." "What works?" "Don't you remember me from Texas?" I said, Oh, just a minute." I went into an adjoining room where I could listen, and this is what I heard. "For 2 months I couldn't get near my boy, and one day we came home from church. He went into the kitchen, chewing on a hero sandwich. I was in my bedroom, chewing on my nails, and then suddenly I walked into the kitchen and I said, 'Son, forgive me. It might be that I may have made a mistake about you, but isn't it possible that you could have made a mistake about me?' Excitedly he told me that the boy acted as if he was suddenly 10 feet tall. He almost crushed his father as he lifted him up in the air. They wept together and felt close, the dearest of friends. Now it was love that made this successful businessman communicate. Communicate! How do you communicate? Well, the first principle of communication is that you have to learn how to communicate with yourself. You've got to keep the railroad tracks within you clean and bright, unencumbered by the negative feelings of frustration, inferiority, grief, loneliness, uncertainty, resentment, emptiness. That was yesterday. The business of living, whether you are 3 or 30, 6 or 60, 9 or 90, is to live. First, you communicate with yourself, then with others. For you can't be a friend to others unless you are a friend to yourself, and you can't be a success with others until you are a success with yourself. You can't receive love from others unless you give love to yourself. Don't cry in your soup because you failed in some undertaking 20 years ago. That's another lifetime. You belong to yourself now. Forget the time when you incarcerated yourself in your own jail, in your own concentration camp, because you were unhappy over some misfortune. The business of living, the business of being successful, the business of rising above frustration is to rise above a heartache, a misfortune, a guilt, a negative feeling, a feeling of hatred, a feeling of bigotry. Finally, let us study what I call the 12 phases of frustration. so you can see them clearly and win out over them, so you can make yourself expert in the art of overcoming frustration. The 12 phases of frustration. First, you are not true to yourself. You fail to support yourself with true loyalty. 2. You use your imagination destructively, as when you have no goal. If you want to use your imagination positively, you must think of your goal, somewhere to go, a goal within your capabilities. Don't try to be the president of the United States. He's got enough trouble. Just be yourself with your own headaches, and the beauty of these headaches is that you can rise above them to a full state of emotional health. 3. You don't know how to relax. Your mind seethes with complexities. 4. Your aim is unhappiness, yet happiness belongs to you, like your eyes, like your heart, like your pulse. Reach for it without stepping on other people's toes, without stepping on your own toes with negative feelings. 5. Frustration is a habit. You have hypnotized yourself into believing that you can't amount to anything, and so you won't. You talk to a child 4 years of age on the phone, and if you are full of frustration, the child will feel it. Positivize your habits. 6. You don't accept your weaknesses, but you've got to, for you're only human and you need a floor upon which to stand. 7. You have no compassion. With compassion, you're somebody. Without compassion, you're nobody. 8. You wear a mask. You play games with yourself and with other people. 9. You repeat your mistakes. You've got to grow through your mistakes. 10. You retire from life. But no human being when alive has the right to do this. I cannot see how you can retire from life without doing yourself a disservice. 11. You consider yourself a loser. If you want to conquer frustration, learn the art of the money player. Think like a winner. If you should lose, there's always the next day. Remember that just because you're a loser once doesn't mean you're going to lose forever. 12. You don't accept yourself for what you are. You live in fantasy. When you come back to Earth, you find it is a frustrating place. These are the 12 phases of frustration. Face up to them. Outstare them. Win out over them. If you don't, you will not find happiness. Not in this world, not in any world. Money cannot buy it for you. Realistic situations of value will find you wanting. People will not give it to you, for happiness at its base is something you create from inside yourself. Happiness is something you give yourself. Let this be your motto. Pax vobiscum. Peace be with you. I want to say something on top of what Maxwell Maltz had written, that the most painful thing in this world is to be someone, a person whom works on a risky job, for example, a construction job. You don't realize that you're paying too much for too little. I know a man whom was working on construction jobs, on the roofs, and one day he just fell down. He got splat on the sidewalk and lost his ability to walk forever. The most painful thing in this world is to work for someone else, to risk everything to risk all you have for pennies. And the most painful thing is not to be able to live the life you want, to be so sick that you don't have the ability to love or feel the love of others. Don't you just realize that you're paying with your life? I don't know who you are, where you are, but I hope this video will help you somehow to reestablish and recreate yourself so you can become one successful and happy person. Maxwell Maltz. Let us continue our very noble, very worthwhile enterprise. Conquest. Not conquest of foreign lands, not conquest in the name of fatherland or motherland, not conquest for gold or treasure. A noble conquest, the conquest of the frustration that eats us. This conquest of frustration is not despotic, it is liberation. Our aim is to enrich our lives, to increase our worth as human beings. I mentioned that recently I was in Salinas and San Jose, California. In each place I spoke to about 2,000 people, maybe more. I was also in San Francisco, where I spoke to 3,000 people. I bring this out because of a letter I received from one of the prisoners who heard me speak at Leavenworth. After reading it, I knew that this one person, this prisoner, was more important to me than the thousands I spoke to on that lecture tour. Here is the letter. I'm a convict at Leavenworth prison who has had a very pleasurable first in his life. I am presently reading Psychocybernetics. I never had the pleasure of seeing or hearing a great author. Dr. Maltz, I think you are a great plastic surgeon, great author, great public speaker, and a very great humanitarian. Because of your visit, I have a better insight of myself than ever before. With your book, Psychocybernetics, the rest is up to me. You have a very fine way of throwing the problem up to a man and then telling him how to solve it. Dr. Maltz, what do you think would happen if every literate person in the world could simultaneously read Psychocybernetics? My mind cannot comprehend the total possibilities in human relations for progress. Progress needs to be worldwide now, probably more than at any other time. I would personally like to thank you and all the people of New York and here in Kansas who are responsible for enabling you to speak to us. I'm a better man for the experience, and it would help greatly to balance the ledger of bad experience in my life. The ledger, might I add, is of my own making. May I thank you greatly and send the best wishes possible to you and all of yours for a long happy life. This man, to me, is tremendously significant. We have talked about people in jail and of the many factors that force people to be less than what they are, and here, in one fell swoop, you see a man who, without the odds against him, shut away in prison, express his desire to make something of himself. Are you too in jail? Have you thrust yourself into your own jail? Have you announced your own jail sentence by practicing frustration? Put bars around yourself? Pronounced your own feelings of inferiority? Have you rejected yourself, eliminated yourself from life, refused to pardon your own jail sentence because you have no sense of forgiveness? If you had put yourself in jail, you must first realize what you have done, the destruction of your self-image. Then you can embark on a campaign of rehabilitation. Let me tell you two little stories. After a recent lecture, a young man came up to speak to me. A young woman came up to speak to me. She was attractive with a pretty face and a nice figure, but she was obviously burdened with frustration and negative feelings. She told me, now read this carefully, that she felt invisible. In other words, she thought so little of herself that she felt invisible. Many people feel this way, and in a sense, she was fortunate in that she could articulate this feeling. This gave her a chance to tackle the problem head on and try to deal with it. If you are filled with negative feelings and frustration, you do not feel invisible because you think you are nobody. You can overcome this feeling with more positive images of yourself when you see in your mind your past successes and see in your imagination your good moments, picturing yourself as the kind of person you admire. Use the technique of money players in sports. They think they are out to win, and even if they lose, they start punching again in the next contest, always out to win. Here's another anecdote. In southern France, where I vacationed not too long ago, I was sitting on the beach near the Mediterranean. Nearby I saw two men on a stone jetty about to go fishing. They were in the 30s, and from their conversation I gathered that they were good friends. They both rolled up their trousers and began to fish. One fisherman got a bite quickly and smoothly and reeled in his fish. And then, to my surprise, the other fellow, in anger and frustration, just quit. Furious that his friend caught the fish first, he just quit. Don't laugh at this story, for in doing so you are expressing the tragedy of this man, because laughter is a release by which you thank God that you are not in that position. It's like your laughter when you see a person slip on a banana peel and fall. You're saying, thank God that I'm not in his position. So don't laugh at the tragedy of this man who quit. You should never make success dependent on another person. It should be up to you, entirely up to you. Suppose this man had been alone. He would have been more patient, but his friend beat him to the punch, so he just gave up. Often people, out of hurt feelings or frustration, give up on the game of life and they stop fishing for success because they envy other people who outcompete them. But real success is based on what you can do with your own life without worrying about others. When you reach success, your next step must be to help others share it, so they can join in your happiness, because happiness, in the true sense, is the only commodity in the world that multiplies by division. The more you hand out, the more you have. There's a little island off the coast of British Columbia, whose stony cracks are inhabited by a certain species of bird called a puffin. It's a tufted small bird, a tufted puffin. The most amazing characteristics of this bird is its habit of living in that spot only. Take it away from that spot and it perishes. It has no resistance, It cannot overcome frustration. It just dies if you take it away. This tufted puffin is so fragile that it cannot endure stress. What kind of bird are you? Are you a tufted puffin with sawdust stuffing? What kind of bird are you? A mess with stress? Or are you a goal striver, a stress survivor? For that's what success is all about. And if you don't survive stress, you're filled with frustration. What kind of bird are you? You're a bird. You have wings. Symbolically speaking. There's a poem by Victor Hugo entitled Wings. Be like the bird that, pausing in its flight a while, on boughs too light, feels them give away, yet sings, knowing she had wings. Your wings. Do you have wings? Of course you have. Your wings are your faith and your belief in yourself, and you can soar to your destination if you will only give yourself a chance. Through frustration and despair, you clip your wings and you cannot get off the ground. You cannot even get to first base. What kind of bird are you? A stuffed puffin? Or can you, with wings of faith and belief, soar to your destination? I believe you can. You have to believe it too. The letter I received from prison had the prisoner's number on the back of it. It reminded me of the time a few years after the Second World War when a middle-aged woman, came to my office. She wore a peculiar dress with long sleeves, out of fashion completely, and I could tell by the look of her that she carried some heavy burden. When she rolled up the sleeve of her dress, I saw a tattooed number on her arm. She had been in a concentration camp. She had lost her family, her parents, her husband, her children, and many times here in New York she had thought of committing suicide, but something made her go on. She came to my office to have the tattooed numbers removed because she had met a man, a machinist, and she now felt she could have a new life in the northern part of the state. I operated on her. She's now happily married and has a number of children. Have you a tattoo on your arm? Think of it. Have you? Take a look. You may say no, but I mean your mental and spiritual arms. Have you tattooed numbers on them? Many of us have, and you alone, can remove these tattooed numbers by having compassion for yourself, by believing in yourself. The man in Leavenworth, Kansas, has a number. You have a number, too, if you are filled with frustration. You must remove these numbers from the skin of your spirit. Through belief in yourself, through compassion, through understanding. When I began to practice more than 45 years ago, as an intern, I delivered my first baby. I was horrified when the father fainted. The child had been born with a hole in the lip, a hair lip, and I felt it was my fault. I was overcome with remorse, and the father had fainted out of remorse too. Subsequently, I explained to him that he would do something about it. That we could do something about it. There was a plastic reconstructive surgeon in those days who could correct the deformity. It was this experience that helped me decide to enter the field of plastic surgery. In my practice, I have, of course, operated on hair lips. During and after World War II, I taught surgeons in many Latin American countries how to perform such operations on children with this disfigurement. In one country, a boy of 17 came to the capital from the interior. He had a hair lip since birth, and when he was about to be put under anesthesia, he shouted, "I'm going to die, I'm going to die." I told him that I was his friend and that he would be alright. He tried to be calm, but I saw the terror in his eyes. Finally, the anesthetist put him to sleep and I repaired the hole in his lip. 2 weeks later, the final dressing was removed and I said to him, "Take a look at yourself in the mirror." He hesitated. I urged him, "Don't be afraid." That minute, before he slowly looked to the mirror, must have been a lifetime to him. Finally he looked and stared at himself in disbelief. I knew what was running through his mind. He saw someone he had never seen before. He turned his head in different directions as he kept looking at his new face. Finally he turned to me with tears of joy in his eyes and cried, "I'm going to leave, I'm going to leave." Are you going to leave? Have you an emotional hair lip? Have you a hair lip in your mind, in your spirit? Because of some frustration, where there is a gap between you and your integrity, where there is a hole between you and your dignity as a full-fledged human being, many of us have. You must remove that gap. Be your own plastic surgeon, and with a little belief in yourself, with a little compassion for yourself, and bridge the gap between you and your dignity with the threads of human kindness. Who are you? You've got to make up your mind who you are. No one can make it for you. Your potential rests within you, not within anyone else. The Great Escape. The prisoner who wrote me has no intention of escaping. He has committed an antisocial offense. He knows he has to serve his time before he can leave. But how about you? Are you going to build on your great opportunity for your escape? You are not antisocial, but those who practice frustration are anti-self, non-self. The strange thing about your escape is that, whereas the world is not anxious for a convict to escape, the world is waiting for you to escape, back to yourself. They are rooting for you because the world needs you as a full-fledged, balanced human being. The world needs you in these troubled times in your own serach for peace, which you can give others unless you feel it yourself. One of the terrible aspects of frustration is that, because of hurt feelings, remorse, distress, loneliness, hatred, people can easily develop misunderstanding of each other. The tomorrow illusion. So in this terrible burden of negative feelings, one of the characteristics of frustration is that we like to say, since we are ashamed of our self-image, we like to say, well, when tomorrow comes, things will be better. Perhaps I will help myself then. Most of us are experts at tomorrow type thinking. We don't need any preschooling for that. Too many of us are born that way, or else acquire it very quickly. It's too hot, I will do it tomorrow. When we have these negative feelings of frustration, we are always pinning the blame on someone else, and we usually say, well, in the South America, it's too hot, so they are the worst offenders. But you don't believe it. You can have offenders in Scandinavia too, let alone here. Let alone here. As members of Manana INS, we leave things till tomorrow that is mostly illusion. For frustration is the thief of time. You cry in your soup, lament the status quo. Tell the world you have been wounded and do nothing about it. The business of living, the business of overcoming frustration is to live now. Now is the time for self-fulfillment. Not tomorrow, but today. Still, if you want to do things tomorrow, you can. Some things should be put off till tomorrow. When resentment strikes you, when hatred strikes you, when bigotry strikes you, look in the mirror and say, Charlie, old boy, Betsy, baby, wait till tomorrow. I will give vent to my anger, my resentment, my hatred. Tomorrow. This is the only time you can be a real expert in the art of self-fulfillment. When you forget these negative feelings, these destructive forces that put a convict number on your mind, on your body, that give you an emotional hair lip, and have a little compassion for yourself. You are only human. You are neither superior nor inferior. You came into this world to succeed, not to fail. Any doctor who has brought a child into the world, who has spanked it and has heard the cry of life for the first time, could not ever believe that this child came into the world in sin. This child came into the world to succeed, not to fail. You too have a moral responsibility to succeed, not to fail. And you begin to succeed when you stop harping on your failures. You have imagination. It's not just the gift of the poet, the philosopher, the musician, or the sculptor. Still, use your imagination as a sculptor would, chipping away the negative feelings that steer you away from the world. Chip them off your self-image, so your image can shine, an image in God's image. A woman baking a roast for her family uses her imagination creatively. She's going to make her family and friends happy. A man who visits a person in a hospital, sickbed, uses his imagination creatively. He wants to help someone less fortunate. And these are tremendous goals. Yet so many people feel unworthy if they are not world famous. They don't realize that they can be great in their own right, within their own limitations, if they use their imagination creatively, avoiding frustration and heartache. Because no one can make you feel frustrated without your consent. No one can make you feel unhappy without your consent. On the other hand, imagination minus is fear, frustration, no goals. So how do you overcome frustration? You make a roadmap of yourself, where you're going and what you want to do. You have a blueprint of yourself. As you look in the mirror, you must decide on your own terms what you want to do. Your blueprint is your opinion of yourself. If it's no good, you will fail. If you have an image within your capabilities and you sustain yourself through determination, you will probably reach your goal. Your image of yourself, your opinion of yourself, this, of course, is how important. This opinion of yourself, this will make you or break you. You can respect others unless you respect yourself. You can admire others unless you admire yourself. You can help others unless you help yourself. When you have a true regard of yourself, you feel a sense of humility with confidence. You pass on your knowledge to less fortunate people. You give your compassion to other people. your understanding to other people, your sense of direction to other people. You're on your way to worldwide destinations. Your self-image is the stranger within you, simply because you know so little of him. Yet the stranger can be your best friend if you make it your business to get to know him better. You rule him, you can make him what you want him to be, an image of success or an image of failure. Other aspects of frustration. So frustration means your refusal to reach self-fulfillment. First, you refuse to concentrate on a strong self-image. 2. You refuse to offer it partnership in your life. 3. You refuse to nourish it, thinking it is not basic to your happiness. 4. You refuse to create a proper climate in which it can grow. 5. You refuse to enhance the stature of your dignity as a human being. 6. You refuse to enforce your sense of self. 7. You refuse to develop a proper self-image every day, forgetting that only your true sense of self can make you strong. 8. You refuse to realize that you came into this world to succeed, that you can improve your self-image. 9. You refuse to reactivate the success instinct, the success mechanism within you. 10. You refuse to have a worthwhile goal. You refuse to understand your needs, to use the courage hidden within you, compassion for yourself. You refuse to play ball with your self-respect, your confidence and self-acceptance waiting to be tapped for the great adventure in self-fulfillment. These aspects of self-denial produce the following. First, fear. This destructive, negative feeling arises when you have no goal. When you are continually criticizing yourself, harping on your grievance that the world has been unkind to you. How much more creative it is to turn your back on the fears of yesterday and concentrate on a worthwhile goal today. 2. Aggressiveness. Frustration produces aggressiveness of the wrong kind. You step on the other people's toes to get somewhere, not realizing that in this process you get nowhere, not realizing that you are stepping on your own toes, making the road to achievement impossible. The only time you can be aggressive creatively is when you have a goal and reach for it with determination and persistence. Refusing to let others steer you away from your course. 3. Insecurity. Frustration produces insecurity. You feel inadequate and inferior. You forget that a mistake does not make you a failure, that no one can make you feel inferior without your consent. 4. Loneliness. Frustration brings loneliness. You feel separated from others, and far worse, you feel separated from yourself. You walk away from reality into the dark tunnel of your troubled mind, alone, without purpose. Remember that no one can make you lonely without your consent. 5. Uncertainty. Frustration means uncertainty. You cannot make a decision to be better than what you think you are. Remember, we came into this world in uncertainty. We live in uncertainty and we pass on in uncertainty. Remember also that the business of creative living, the whole principle of psychokybernetics, is to bend uncertainty to your will, fulfilling the generic, innate desire of every human being to live and be happy. If you remember this goal, common to all mankind, you will fight for it and overcome your uncertainty. 6. Resentment. Resentment is always synonymous with frustration. You hate others, blame others for your inadequacy, let others run your life, control you, complaining you never had good fortune. You forget that you and you alone can change your luck by turning your back on negative feelings and by recalling the confidence of past successes as you try to reach your goal in the present. 7a. Emptiness. Frustration ends in emptiness when you say to yourself that you have had it, when you give up on life, shun responsibility, give up on creative goal striving, and leave your destiny to others. Symbolically, you have packed your self-image in a valise. Place the valise in a locker at an airport, locked it, and thrown away the key. Thus, chronic frustration produces the 7 aspects of the failure mechanism. Overcoming frustration. Remember how destructive frustration can be. Remember that it is within your power to make a change for the better, to change your self-image, with a little compassion for yourself by realizing that you are somebody of importance to yourself, to your family, to your community, to your country, to the world. You can be a sculptor of your own spirit and make the diminutive image of yourself grow 10 feet tall. That's what psychokybernetics is all about. Steering your mind to productive, useful goals, not steering your mind to unproductive, futile goals through frustration. A few more words on fear. If you're afraid a burglar will break into your home, you pick up your telephone and call a locksmith. He will send an expert over to put in some locks to give you protection. But on another level, you must not lock yourself up. You must not imprison yourself. You must free yourself to set goals and pursue them, without blocking yourself with fear. To overcome frustration, you must learn to handle your fear constructively, for while fear can be valuable, if it's in the form of goal-oriented anxiety, unchanneled, uncontrollable fear means agitation without any purpose. It means retreat from the better side of yourself. The fearful person has succumbed to amnesia. He has lost his dignity, his identity, his potential. To overcome frustration, you must learn to handle your resentment constructively. You must learn to channel your destructiveness into positive pursuits. When you carry with your dreams of retaliation, TNT type of hostility, you're carrying 50 pounds of extra mental weight on your back. Everyone has troubles, problems, complaints. You must transform your destructive goal or disbelief into a constructive goal of belief, transformed from hostility to love. Love of self first before you dare offer this love to someone else. And again, by love I mean self-respect. When you're filled with frustration, you have acquired a certain guilt, a sense of shame. This sense of shame leads you to resentment and to all these negative feelings that steer you away from reality, from loved ones, from your goals. You must take your chances in life. If you fail, you must learn not to resent yourself. We rise above feelings of resentment towards self and others by accepting ourselves for what we are, by realizing that we are capable of being better people. We must adjust to error, search for our dignity through compassion. Compassion is soothing balm for the world weary. When you give yourself compassion, you give yourself a chance to improve yourself. You refuse to let your mistakes defeat you. You say to yourself, I'm only human, I still like myself. I like myself. You keep searching for the better you. You search to make money, which is fine. You search for success, but too often we have a spurious idea of what success is. We think in terms of prestige symbols and produce resentment. Anna has a fur coat. Susie must have one. John has a Cadillac. Bill has to have one. These prestige symbols mean nothing. You must realize that you are more than a prestige symbol, that success means more than money, that it involves a sense of direction, a quality of understanding, and a considerable degree of self-acceptance. As a success, you accept yourself for what you are. You don't try to pretend you are someone else. Like the athlete who is a money player, you think of the times when you were a winner, yet knowing from your mature perspective that you will never be a champion 100% of the time, and you refuse to let defeat humiliate you in any way. You accept life's setbacks realistically. You do not let them throw you. Finally, a short assignment. See if it doesn't help you. When you get home, even if someone is looking and thinks you are crazy, sit down with a pencil and a pad and write down something like this. What did I forget today? Did I forget to aim at being a better person? Did I forget to conquer obsessive fears that make my life miserable? What did I forget today? Did I forget to curb my over-aggressiveness? Did I forget to fight my feelings of insecurity, of loneliness, of uncertainty? What did I forget today? Did I forget to eliminate my resentments? Did I forget my resolve that I would try to be more accepting? What did I forget today? Did I forget to be honest with myself? Did I forget to try to understand the needs of other people as well as my own? Did I forget to strengthen my self-respect? What did I forget today? Now, don't blame yourself if you were forgetful today. The important thing is, did you do your best? What did you remember to do? What goals did you achieve? Don't expect yourself to be perfect. You do your best and this you accept. What you forgot to do is human error. Forgive yourself your omissions. And then, tomorrow you will set new goals and you will not forget so many. You will build day upon day, week upon week, improving yourself as a human being, until frustration is no longer a way of life, until you use your wings to fly with your rising spirit, until you use your wings to rise above your mental roadblocks, until you use your wings to overcome frustration as a mechanism of death. Then you will say goodbye to the 12 phases of frustration and to the other aspects of frustration that mean failure. Then you will say hello to life. Say hello. This could be the most important adventure of your life, the one you cannot lose, the one for the championship, the one with the high stakes, the one that determines the quality of your life, that spells out your real value as a constructive human being. In addition to Maxwell Maltz, I want to say that you have to be thankful. To be thankful that you have legs, you have hands, that you are alive, that you can work, that you have a chance to make something of value to yourself and to others. Let me tell you one truth. If someone wants you to if someone wants you to become envious, this person hates you. But if someone wants others to get envy of you, this person loves you. I am also fearful, lazy, greedy. These are not insults. These are normal human inherited traits. Just some people are more lazy and greedy and fearful than others. I not only once had the negative habit to hurt myself in anger, I know what is when you're under the control of someone else, under the control of your emotions. The fact is, with your power of thought, you can create something of value. You can change your life every time if you decide. I know how painful it is to be deprived of social and sexual contact. I was broke and alone too, so everything will get better, I promise you. Maxwell Maltz. We continue. We live one life and we seek to make the most of it. It is an imperfect life, a series of stresses and strains, but it is the only one we have. We must take out our compass and plot our destiny. Life's highways are many and frustrating. We seek the roads leading to self-fulfillment. And so we re-embark on our voyage of discovery, looking for ways to stand up under stress, conquer frustration, and get on the right track. It may not be easy for everybody, but most people do have hope. First, let me quote from another letter I received from an inmate of Leavenworth. Just a short note to thank you for your recent visit here with us at Leavenworth. It's not often that someone, especially of your stature, from the free world comes here to let us know that out there they are still thus willing and anxious to accept us and love us. He goes on to write of other things. I quote this prisoner because he writes graciously and sweetly, and anyone who can do this must still have some hope. Even though he is a prison inmate, you outside prison walls, chances are you have hope too. Now let me quote a second letter. A man wrote it, not to me but to a restaurant in Little Rock, Arkansas, and someone there forwarded it to me. When I was in Little Rock the first part of this week, I noticed on 2 occasions the reader board message at your restaurant. It reads, "Forgive others often, yourself never." Each time I questioned myself of the meaning, not of the first part but the second. The message indicated that we should never forgive ourselves, and I do not agree with this. Inasmuch as our Lord Jesus Christ said that we should forgive our fellow man of his sins toward us as many times as 70 times 7, we are therefore in agreement that we should forgive others often. However, the New Statement in Matthew 6:15 states that if you forgive others, then your Father in heaven will forgive the wrongs you have done. Can we not forgive ourselves if our Father can? Secondly, Dr. Maxwell Maltz, in his book entitled Psychokybernetics, states that true forgiveness comes only when we are able to see and emotionally accept that there is and was nothing for us to forgive. We should not have condemned or hated the other person in the first in the first place. If there was no condemnation, there is no need for forgiveness. If we can truly forgive others, why is it not reasonable to say that we shouldn't condemn but to forgive ourselves for our mistakes? It is fatal, psychologically, if we don't. Therefore, may I suggest a new copy for your board? Forgive others always, forgive yourself as often. It is a very interesting letter, for only through forgiveness can you turn your back on the frustrations of the past and learn to conquer frustration. The fundamentalist concept that you are a sinner from infancy on, long before you knew anything about life, is not part of our thinking. This is not our belief. Psychocybernetics means steering your mind to a productive, useful goal. It is when you steer your mind to unproductive, useless goals that you fill yourself with frustration. And if you cannot forgive yourself for a blunder, a heartache, a misfortune, a hurt feeling, a resentment, then you cannot clear the railroad tracks within you so that you can communicate with yourself. And therefore, you cannot find roads to self-fulfillment, only detours. It is a terrifying feeling to think that in this day and age people feel so much bigotry. Not too long ago, we heard the drums of a parade in celebration of a great man who gave up his life for an ideal freedom. It was a terrible feeling to hear these drums in honor of Martin Luther King, and at the same time to know that someone hated him enough to shoot him down. So much hatred, frustration, bigotry, unrelieved, unproductive, leading to this horrible deed. We must all overcome not only personal frustrations, but our cosmic and community frustrations that have made most of us less than what we think we are. We must forgive our petty mistakes, our human errors, so that we can cleanse our souls of frustration and guilt. Recently, when I was on the West Coast, I picked up a newspaper and read about a new weapon of the United States, an anti-sub torpedo, Mark 46-0. This article stressed the deadlines of this weapon, its vast potential in bolstering the nation's defenses. This new weapon could, it was claimed, find the deepest submarine. It could, on picking up an a-hole, judge it had sighted an enemy sub and take action, automatically launching its attack under orders from its brain. This new weapon was equipped with a high explosive warhead. The article concluded, "This might be splendid for our navy, for our country, for our national security, but for us, suppose we gather in a theater of our minds, use our imagination creatively and make up our own newspaper. Here's what we write. A lively hunter man has a new anti-frustration torpedo, compassion. It is his own happiness, Mark 100. It weighs nothing. It gets its tremendous zip from understanding. Its acoustic homing system can seek out the deepest running frustration hidden within us. The brain of this Mark Happiness 100 is a simple servo mechanism within us that steers our minds to useful goals. This successful mechanism of confidence within us directs its torpedo to a subterranean target, deep, very deep within our troubled minds. This torpedo, however, carries an extremely happy peace head, removing our hidden emotional scars that seek to destroy us. For us, this is more like it. the negative warhead of frustration feelings. Let me tell you a story. Sometimes back, I was in Costa Rica and there were two men, both young men, in the coffee business. Very successful. They were partners. One, I will call him Mr. M, was married to a beautiful young woman, a lovely, compassionate woman who came from a family of distinction in Costa Rica. There was one trouble with him. He was suspicious, jealous. He thought his wife wasn't loyal to him, that she was carrying on an affair behind his back, and once when they had a charitable dance in San Jose, Costa Rica, he watched his wife louting with his business partner. They were smiling at each other. Suddenly he suspected his partner was her lover. A few evenings later, his wife wore a new print dress. She said she was going to see her mother. He wished her good luck and she left, but he was filled with suspicion. It grew dark and big. He walked from his home toward a huge park in town. It was a strange type of park. It was circular, with a circular area in the center where young girls walked in one direction, in a larger external circular area where the young men walked in the opposite direction. When they meet when they met each other and got to know each other, they paired off and dated. A huge number of chairs faced this area under huge trees. And from the other side of the street, Mr. M suddenly spotted his wife's print dress. She was walking with this man, and he knew definitely that the man was his business partner. They sat down on a bench, their backs to him. Creeping across the street toward them, he pulled out a knife and slashed the man's face. A terrible wound. The woman, shrieking, turned around. But it wasn't his wife at all. Neither was the man his partner. He was a well-known lawyer. His jealousy, his suspicion, his hatred not only affected him, it affected people he didn't even know. He suffered most of all because most of the people he knew in Costa Rica disowned him. What I'm trying to say, that these terrible negative feelings of hatred and frustration and all that go with them are torpedo warheads that zigzag into nothing, because these types of negative emotions hurt most of the one who feels them. You create your own torpedoes that take you away from your goals when you give in to negative frustrated feelings. Most of us are complainers. Few of us take time off to reflect on who we are, forgetting we have the great gift of being ourselves. We use a tremendous amount of energy needlessly pursuing being less than what we really are. Negative feelings within us retard us from reaching our daily goal of self-fulfillment, sidetracking us into a dead end of uselessness. And the well-developed ability to complain is one of them. Furthermore, when we complain, we usually believe it is someone else who has kept us from our goal. We all know in our own relationships with people, those who complain. I know a woman who is happily married with two married sons, grandchildren, and yet she is always complaining. She's always scratching for attention, not realizing that when you scratch for attention in complaining, it is like scratching on marble. It has no effect. Zero effect. We must learn to rise to our full stature of self-respect. But when you complain, you are doing the opposite. as when you gossip. For gossip too is a form of self-destruction. The person you hate is not there, and yet you destroy him with your venomous comments. It's the same thing with complaining. You're disgusted with yourself and you destroy yourself as you complain. You must realize this. When you complain to others, you don't lose your burden at all. It is still there. Stop complaining, start living. Stop complaining, stop complaining. Tell yourself you're not a horrible. You're not a horrible person. Be a friend to yourself. Then you won't have to complain. You're complaining less, but your conscience is bothering you. Alright, let's take a look at the question of conscience. The meaning of conscience. Shakespeare wrote in Hamlet, "Conscience doth make cowards of us all." Now, what did he really mean? With all due respect to Shakespeare, surely the greatest literary genius who ever lived, I don't think he knew what he really meant. And I don't think that most of the philosophers throughout the ages knew what they really meant when they talked about conscience. Now let's think about this for a moment. Conscience doth make cowards of us all. Is this statement true? Oscar Wilde believed that conscience and cowardice were the same thing. But was his belief really true? Think a moment about it. Stop listening for a second and think. What did these two literary giants really mean when they related conscience to cowardice? I don't know, but I feel strongly that they were wrong. For we make cowards of our conscience. Conscience never makes cowards of us. We make cowards of our conscience. It's a strange thing about life. When we are happy, when we look in the mirror and say, "Charlie, old boy, this has been a great day for me," or "Betsy, baby, this is my day, I love you," we forget about our conscience. We don't know it exists, but as soon as we make a blunder, as soon as we hate someone and we are ashamed of it, as soon as we are filled with frustration, then we think of conscience. So conscience is a negative concept. My attitude about conscience is that it's your self-image, your opinion of yourself as you look in the mirror. And if you don't like yourself because of some error, some blunder, some hatred, some bigotry, you refuse to blame yourself. You look for some scapegoat, as Hitler did to so many unfortunate people. Thus the scapegoat within you is your opinion of yourself, so you blame your opinion of yourself. Your opinion of yourself is your conscience, and if you make a mistake, you refuse to blame yourself. So you tell yourself you can live with your conscience. But what you really mean is you can't live with yourself. Remember this, when you fulfill yourself, when you win out in the battle of life, you're playing ball with your self-image, your conscience, and remember this. Remember this too. You made the change, but when overcome with negative feelings, you deny yourself self-fulfillment and don't like yourself. You think your conscience is bothering you. What you really mean is that you're annoyed with yourself, with your opinion of yourself, but you can change it. You must become your own plastic surgeon and remove these scars of frustration that you bruised into yourself, like me. Every day I operate in the hospital, I wear a cap, a gown, a mask. See me in the hospital. Here's the cap I wear. It's blue, you see, because many people think White is terrifying in an operating room. So, for the past 10 or 15 years, we have used blue, gray, or pastel shades of green. I am a plastic surgeon. I put a mask on, a gown. I put gloves on, and now I am operating to remove a scar. And you symbolically join me. You too are doing the same thing in the room of your mind. You remove your scars, your so painful emotional scar. First, when you deal rationally with threats to yourself, you refuse to let the little pinpricks that hurt your ego cut you in two. You rise above them, removing the infection of oversensitivity, giving yourself compassion. You cut away the scars of doubt, fear, jealousy, and suspicion. 2. You work to reconstruct a self-reliant image. You work to give to others. If you can, you will always have returns. You build your self-image not on vanity or money, but on happiness. For happiness is the only commodity in the world that multiplies by division. The more you give, the more you have. It belongs to you. Give yourself a break. Play a game of tennis with your self-image. With your conscience, play ball with it. If you make a mistake, blame your self-image. If it will give you pleasure, but if your self-image is looking at you hurt that you are not blaming yourself, blame yourself too. And you will have a fun game that will make you laugh and help you rise to your full stature of dignity. As a person whose goal is happiness, whose goal is a healthy self-image, whose goal has value and meaning. 3. You build within you a foundation, a scaffold of relaxation for your spirit and your emotions to cope with these emotional pinpricks. In section 1, I mentioned the 4 rules for relaxation. Let me repeat them for you. First, you forgive others. Second, you forgive yourself. 3. You see yourself at your best. And 4. You keep up with yourself. How do you build? Through relaxation and through emotional flexibility and through a devotion to your most important task, the strengthening of your image of yourself. You recall the confidence of the past and you use that confidence in your present undertaking. You use your energy for creative rather than for destructive purposes. You live every day to the full. Each day is a whole new lifetime that will never come back. Get the most out of it. You accept your errors and you push to rise above them. You're on the lookout for tone, not tension. You acquire maturity and happiness when you remember your assets, your self-acceptance and your integrity as a person of worth. You have maturity in your reach for happiness when you remember your assets of self-respect and confidence. You're a person of opportunity. You can have opportunity knock on your door from now to 17 lifetimes and never hear it, but you must listen. Your opportunity. You're opening the door to new opportunities of improving yourself every day. Now let's discuss forgiveness. Forgiveness and peace of mind. You must realize that you are not only an image maker but an image breaker. You must understand that forgiveness is a spiritual weapon that will help you towards peace of mind. Peace of mind, without it, because of frustration, you're always walking back into that little jail, that little concentration camp of your own choosing. When you create your own blackout, walking into the black tunnel of your troubled mind, refusing to walk out of it, into the dawn of a new day. Forgiveness, this is your great weapon. When you learn to operate on yourself, removing those wrinkles from the face of your mind, that age you that age you before your time, you then become a judge without a grudge. You are no longer the offender. You have given yourself forgiveness. When you are through with the operation, you go to the mirror and notice that these prune wrinkles on the face of your mind are gone. You are young again. You have found youth in your self-image, in your opinion of yourself, in your forgiveness of your errors. If you destroy this youth with negative feelings, you are old, whether you are 3 or 103. But if you know how to cope with frustration, you are young, whether you are 3 or 103. You are no longer so vulnerable to life. You are able to absorb the shocks when you take the calculated risks in living. So now for the first time you realize you are not only an image maker but an image breaker. You are not only a new image maker but an old image breaker. You take off the mask. You stop playing games now.